the WSL game against Man City, it was maybe sort of the most defensive pressure I'd seen you under this season, but in some ways it felt like that gave you the opportunity to play more of a transitional game, and it felt like you got a lot of success obviously doing that against Chelsea. Do you think that suits this Arsenal side more, having that space to attack in that way as opposed to playing against the low blocks?
I think we've been very, very good when time and space has been presented to us so far this season. I think there is not a way when you play against Man City where you can only be in a low block, because I think they're a very, very good crossing team. Probably the best crossing team in the world at the moment in women's football. So if you allow them to cross the ball too many times against you, they will eventually score on that. So you need to restrict those moments in some ways, which means that you also need to spend more time defending higher up on the pitch. And of course, we are a team that also wants to have the ball. We definitely had too little of the ball in that game against them on Meadow Park earlier on the season, for both mine and the team's liking. Like I said on that day, when things progressed like they did in the game, then we thought, okay, let's roll with that state of game and let's punish them on transitions, which we were successful on. But as a team, as our liking, we would definitely like to have had more of the ball than that game.
And I just also wanted to ask about Kyra Cooney-Cross. Feels like you've shown her a lot of faith in terms of her coming on for the last half hour in the Spurs game and the West Ham game when you were losing. But then we just seen her have a small run of starts when obviously Leah Volti was injured. Where do you see her role as being within this team right now?
What do you mean with role?
Like, I guess maybe when you were bringing her on against Spurs and West Ham, like, what were you looking for her to do in those moments? Because it feels like that's big trust for a player who's only really got minutes earlier in the season through injury.
Yeah, I have huge belief in Kyra. I think she has some tremendous qualities. Especially, I think she's very, very good on the ball with both shorter passing and longer passing, which make her a very potent player when you try to break down low blocks, because you now as an opposition have to cover a lot of spaces in order to protect her potential passes. So in those moments when we have brought her on against both Tottenham and West Ham, it has mainly been to get advantage of both her distribution, but of course also her set piece foot. That is world class.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. Tom Gary.
Good morning. I'll just take you right back to your very first answer at the press conference. You mentioned about the content. I was wondering what you would like to see done to fix the competition.
You cut out a little bit there, Tom. Sorry. Can you repeat that question?
It might be my signal. Sorry. I was just asking about the call up you said in your first answer that there were problems with the Conti Cup. I was wondering what you would like to see fixed with the competition.
Okay, I can give you a couple of examples. It's not going to be all of them. I think how you use the suspensions between the league and the Conti Cup is an absolute joke. How you can get a red card in the league for 2 yellow cards and you be suspended for a Conti Cup game and you can come back and play in the next league game. I don't see how you mix two competitions, especially when not all teams in the league is a part of that competition at the group stage. That makes it even more weird. I think when you look at any competition, what you would like to have is clear rules. If that happens, this is the consequence of it. But what Conti Cup is surrounded with is, if this happens, let's see what's the consequence is going to be, which makes it very unpredictable for any team or player taking part of it. And I can give you an example of when Aston Villa is fielding an ineligible player, for example. Where I come from in Sweden, you have when you play with an illegible player, then there is a clear outcome. What happens if you do that? and I don't think that is difficult when you have a competition that shouldn't have to be a committee or a tribunal having a meeting to do that on a case-by-case basis. Then we have the pitches to that, and that's maybe more of a women's football problem than a Conti Cup problem, but still it affects here now in the Conti Cup, where you be saying that if you don't have a pitch that you can play on, because we know we're playing these games very tight in comparison here with the FA Cup and the league. See, like, what is the plan? If you can't play on your pitch, what is the plan? Do you have a reserve pitch that you can play on instead? Can we move the game to somewhere else? Or, in this case here, we no one knows what's going to happen when we can't play on the original pitch, which makes it really complicated, because now we have to move the game onto a different period where we have less availability on players that we had a week before, because there is a Gold Cup. So now we move a game that was before the release period of the Gold Cup inside the release period of the Gold Cup. And everyone is obviously very fine with that, because that's how we do things. But me, if I'm looking at it from a competition perspective, think there is room for improvement. And I don't think it needs to be like that. Because in Sweden, which has more severe weather than there is here in the UK, and it snows a lot, and it's a lot of tough weather conditions, games very, very, very rarely gets cancelled. And if they do get cancelled, you play them the day after on the pitch, or you move it to the reserve pitch to be able to do that. And I don't get this, why we can play the game where it's supposed to be played. Yeah, so that was a couple of examples. If I get to think about anything more really clearly, I might tell you next time we speak, Tom.
Thanks, Jonas. That is actually very interesting. And just on the FA Cup, lastly, if you don't mind me asking one more, give them sort of how badly you as a team want to get to Wembley and win this competition. Just how important is it to you?
Very important. We're super motivated. We would love to go to Wembley and play the final, but we have a very challenging and interesting and exciting game now against City that we first need to focus.
Thanks, Tom. We'll go to Phil.
Hey, Jonas. Just a couple of quick ones. Firstly, I just wondered what you think the atmosphere will be like between you and Gareth Taylor this weekend, given the comments that he made after that match in November, the bullying accusation.
Oh, I haven't thought about that. I think it's been a lot of water flowing down the Thames River since that, so no idea.
Okay. The other thing is sort of outside of the match. Last night, sort of emerged reports about blue cards and sin bins, sort of about to be introduced for a new trial, and it was said that the FA was possibly looking at trialling it in the women's and the men's FA Cups at some point. What are your thoughts on that sort of blue card and sin bin idea, that whole proposal?
There is one rule in football that takes time into account as a consequence at the moment. It's the amount of time that the goalkeeper is allowed to control the ball with his or her hands. That's very clearly stipulated in the laws of the games to 6 seconds. If you see how that law is followed by the referees, I think there is room for improvement. I think when you talk about a game that is not managed by effective time, in order to have a consequence that's going to be in time, I can't see that that's going to come anything positive out of that. It's just going to be another incentive for the team that then gets a player temporarily sent off to slowing the time of ball in play time as much as possible during that period. And at the moment, that's just plenty of opportunities on that. For example, the goalkeeper standing with the ball in her hands for 30 seconds. when it's only allowed for 6 seconds. So no, I don't hope that in that current proposal it's something that's going to be trialed on any elite level. And I think if you are going to have anything with time restrictions on in football, then you need to manage the time much better in football and have it clearer on how you make sure that the ball is in play.
So you think it would increase the potential for time wasting, essentially? Yeah?
Oh yeah, of course. It's like how the game is run at the moment, no doubt about it.